Hey everyone, it's Arfan with Grow Automate Scale, and I'm back with another guest expert for the Successful Lead Generating Coaches Show. And I have with me today Mel. Mel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm super excited for our conversation today because it's something that as coaches, as online entrepreneurs, we're always looking at some of the ways that we can maximize our efficiency in terms of being more productive, more energetic, being able to show up with the energy and the mindset needed to serve our clients and to also show for ourselves and live the best version of our own selves. So today I'm going to be talking to Mel, and Mel is an energetic leadership and empowerment coach, and she has over 15 years of corporate experience. She has an interesting journey that she's going to be able to share with us, and also some interesting perspective that we don't really hear a lot often, or sometimes when we do hear about it, doesn't may not resonate or so. So I always like to have a little varied perspective. So I'm super excited to have you here today, and I'm looking forward to our conversation, which we're going to be talking about tapping into the power of energetics to have more influence, more impact, and more success. Which is, I know all of you listening right now is exactly what you're here for. You want to have more influence, you want to have the impact, and of course, the success to go with it too as well. So with that being said, Mel, I would love for you to like really just tell us a little more about yourself, like how you got started on your journey and what led you to do the work that you do now.
Perfect. Thanks, Arvon. I'm so excited to be here. And this is something I'm so passionate about sharing because, yeah, my business today came out of a personal journey as well.
Mm,
So, as you mentioned, oftentimes we think about, we're going along, we're living our life, and we're like, this is just how it is. And, I hear this so often where people are like, well, this is just how it is now. And
mm,
I'm here to tell you that you actually have the power and the ability to make those shifts and those changes. And so as you mentioned, I have over 15 years in corporate experience. And I climbed the corporate ladder. I was doing, achieving, excelled in everything I was doing. And literally, I was living a life at about 150% in every aspect of my life.
mm,
And, on the flip side of it, it also looked like I had this amazing, awesome life. I was traveling all over the country. I was, living a great life, traveling to, experiencing just some, luxurious things and places. And it literally looked like I had that perfect life. But
mm-hmm.
what was really happening is I was literally out of control. And
Wow.
I would hide that, right? I would just be like, I kept pushing through because that's what you had to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was like if you excelled here, they expected you to excel at that next level. And so it was always just, it was never like celebrating where you were at. It was about getting to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day my life came crashing down. I lost my job. I lost my
Oh no.
relationship. My health was, I mean, I was literally in bed for 3 months and
Whoa.
everything came crashing down. And traditional methods, the medical system, nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. They're like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
you're depressed, you need a nap. Go take a nap. Go sit on the beach for a while. And I'm like, no, there's something more to this, right? And so I slowly started entering into this world of energetics, which I had been in the world, but I would say it was more, I was like kind of like on that outside look of what energetics was all about.
Mm-hmm.
And I started realizing that I had the power, I had the control to create change for me, because I was
Mm,
looking for something on the X side, on the outside. I was looking for an external reason. Like, if this happens, then I'll feel good. If, I can succeed in my job, if only my job would give me, ABC. My
yeah.
health, I can get my health back if I work out. Like, that's the other thing, right? Like, we always think here, if we're not getting the results on what we're doing, the traditional model is let's just push and let's do more, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Yeah.
mindset. That's the mindset that we have. We're like, just do more. I must not be doing enough. So that all shifted for me, and really understanding our energetics, because right, everything is energy,
Mm-hmm.
and we have the ability to shift that, change that. Are we at a low vibration? Are we at a high vibration? And
Mhm.
all of that then determines how we show up in the world as well. And so
It's
really
fascinating.
it is, right? And that's the thing is like so often we give away our power. We give away and we just say, well, when this happens, for example, like let's think of something simple like working out, right? When we work out, we're like, okay, I'm committed. I want to drop 10 pounds. So I'm going to start working out. Okay, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. But mind you haven't worked out, in months,
Yeah.
but I'm going to implement, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Well, you do that for a few days and then you're like, "Oh, wait, I didn't get any results."
Mm,
So, we also live in a society of, like, instant gratification, right? And so this whole world of energetics is about beginning that dialogue and understanding and checking in with yourself of how am I feeling? What am
mhm,
I thinking? And what's happening around me? Like, what do I have control over? And then how can I start making those small little shifts and those changes to create that impact? So, if we're sitting here and we're in a state of overwhelm, that creates stuckness. That creates it like we're not productive. We can't be creative. We can't, mentally, physically, and emotionally, we don't have the power and ability to be functioning. And even like and when we're in a state of overwhelm, the last thing we want to do is say, hey, let me try to figure out something else to
mhm.
do, because we
Yeah.
can't do that. So it's really taking that step back to assess what's going on here right now. Like, what's happening? What am I feeling? Like, what is out of control in my life? And then
Mhm.
starting to look at that and say, how can I show up differently? And whether it's a habit, whether it's a shift in our energy, how can I start to create that change so that I can start supporting myself,
I
right?
love
Because
that.
the last thing that we do is like we're all out here and we forget about taking care of ourselves. We're our most valuable asset. And when we're good, emotionally, mentally, physically, then all of those things that seem to create the overwhelm, all of those things where we're sitting here, we're like, oh, I dread to go to work.
Mm,
Oh, how do I balance being successful in my career and, being there for my family? All of those things start to dissipate, right? And
mhm.
so,
It's true.
but we want that to happen and we're relying on something outside of us to make that change when really it's our power. We have the ability to do that. So it's really about energy is about starting to notice and starting to create that inner dialogue with yourself because quite honestly, most of us walk around on autopilot. And
Mhm.
our thoughts, 95% of our thoughts are the same exact thoughts that we've had day in, day out, and we don't even know that's happening. And
A repeated
so,
cycle.
look, yeah, it's just this constant cycle of stress, overwhelm, mentally, physically. And we're sitting here, we're like going, I don't know what to do. So then we get stuck but really, we have the power to shift that and change that. And so, from my personal journey, I live a completely different life today than I lived before. And
Mhm,
honestly, I am more successful. I have more joy in my life. I actually have more, I always talk about balance, and balance isn't about this. Balance is about like, think of like, water, right? You sit there and you see that bobbing of the water. That's what balance is in our life. But we live in such extremes that we want to be able to manage that. And so by
mhm.
me being able to shift and change my life, and like I said, it was a matter of like, there was no more of, I always look back at it and say, like, I knew things were out of balance. I knew things were out of control, but I didn't give myself the grace and the ability to step back and pause and say, okay, what's really going on? So
Yeah.
life told me, like, hey, we're going to slam you up against this wall. And now you're going to pay attention to us, right? Because we're crashing everything. We're taking your everything down. And so for me and my work is I want to prevent that crash.
Mhm.
Because like we know, because by the time we crash, this has been going on a long time. And so from that, by me rebuilding my life, that's where my business was born. And I am so passionate about helping people understand that you have the power, you have the ability to define what does success look like for you? What does it look like for you to actually love and live a life of joy and fulfillment? And you can do that navigating through all the chaos and the hustle and the craziness. You can do
Yeah.
that.
So that's really amazing that, and like obviously you went through a tough point there where you're in bed for 3 months.
Mhm.
Um, what was the pivotal moment during that 3 months where you really snapped and realized what needed to be done? Like, can you talk to us a little bit about that part of the journey?
Yeah, and I mean, I think this was really the switch for me is because I was seeking, I was like, "Oh, hey, let me go to some therapy. Hey, let me, let me change up my workout. Let me read these
Hmm.
self-help books. Let me." So it was all of these things, and honestly, it was things that I used to do. Like, right? Like if you're like, "Oh, I'm not getting the result I want," well, then do this. And so that was the thing is one day I had a conversation because I think one of the things that was very pivotal for me is meditation.
Hmm.
I mean, I had tried to meditate multiple times and I was like, oh, I can't do this. I can't turn my mind off. And, newsflash, the point of meditation is not to turn your mind off because you can't turn your mind off.
Yeah.
But it was that whole thing when I got the message, and I always say, like, what's that saying? Like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
and that was the thing. And so I was seeking all of these things. I was trying therapy. I was, saying, here, let me go get acupuncture. Let me go to a functional practitioner. Let me, let me seek out all these things. And then somebody told me about meditation, about this type of meditation. They said, you should try this. And I'm like, okay. And what it was about, this type of meditation is all about being able to release the stress and that overwhelm. Like, right? Because
Mm.
sometimes we think of, meditation either, number one, it's like, okay, you need to meditate for 3 hours a day. And I'm like, well, I'm not here to become a monk. Like, right?
3 hours,
That's not
my
my
gosh.
yeah, that's not my purpose. The other part is, like you said, then you have this thought of like, oh, when you try meditation, you can't turn your mind off. Well, the whole point of this type of meditation is about acknowledging. So like this is what really spoke to me is it's not we're trying to get rid of what's happening. We're
Hmm.
trying to acknowledge that because once you
Mm.
acknowledge it and you create that awareness around it, then that's when you start opening up the possibilities. And so that was really the shift for me was when I was introduced to that and I realized I'm not trying like there's nothing wrong with what's happening with me right now. Cuz right so often we feel like oh if I can't handle this stress there must be something wrong with me. And it's not
Mm.
that there's something wrong with us. It's just us becoming connected with who we are. So that was really a pivotal thing. And I think, like I said, I tried meditation multiple times and it just spoke to me this type of meditation of being able to say, it's okay. Like, this is
Hmm.
okay. And it's a piece of who I am. And by me moving through this, acknowledging it and moving through this, I can then take back my control.
I
And so
like
that was
that.
like a huge pivotal point for me. And from there, I just started, that was really when I started to understand the intricacies of we have everything we need right inside of us. It's about tapping into that source. And it is about us understanding what is happening with us. So, the other piece of it too is looking at the mental aspect of it, right? Like I've been in therapy, I've done that, and therapy is great and it helps you and it serves its purpose. But really, I want to understand like what is happening on a day to day basis with me? Like, what am I thinking? And like I
Hmm.
said, most of the time we don't even know what we're thinking. It's just happening there in the background, right? And then
Yeah.
once you start to have that awareness, then you can start to create that change. Because I think
It's
that's the
amazing.
other big piece is, I was so caught into this was what my life was. And I thought that's what I wanted my life to be. Because, right, I was excelling, I was successful, I was making great money, I was living this awesome, incredible life, or so I thought. But really, in the end, I was so disconnected from me.
Mm. So we're talking about that, right? So you've gone through your journey, realized like you were at a point where you were successful. Not that you not to not, but at that moment you had a certain level of success that you were striving for that. That's what you were running for. Am I correct with that? Like
Mhm,
you
mhm.
were after that. but then
Yeah.
you hit a wall, and then you're in bed for 3 months, and then you discovered. And I had a conversation with Claire. We talked about the meditation. I shared that it took me a bit to try different things to find out the one that works for me.
Yeah.
But you realize that doing all that, it ended up, although on the outside it looked amazing, on the inside, your frequency was at a lower state. It wasn't at the joy, the happiness, the big bright light emotions that we really want to feel. And you discovered the way to get there. For someone listening right now who externally it's looking like, hey, things are going pretty good, but internally they're feeling like something is missing, where what's a tangible way, like where can they start to start making a shift?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you can do is take a moment to pause. And I have an exercise that I do with my clients in the very beginning, and it's really about getting clarity, like, right? Because it's not about like, you don't have to crash and burn like me, right? And like overall, maybe you're like, hey, things are good. It's okay, but there's still something that's not right. Or you're feeling whether it's the stress, the overwhelm, or you're like, I feel like if I'm at work, I'm not being able to be there for my family or vice versa, is I have this exercise where it's clarity. So on the left-hand side, where are you right now? And I encourage you to look at each area like work, family, friendships, relationship, health, that sort of thing. Where are you?
Mm,
And just notice that. And then notice like what's good, what's bad. Like what's working, what's not working. Because like that's the biggest thing is most people don't even take the time to figure out where we're at. Like where are we? Like for example, like working out, right? People, I mean, I talk to people where they're like, "Well, I have to work out." And I'm like, "Well, yes, it is positive for your health, but what if you actually found something that you actually enjoy doing? So it doesn't feel like I have to, you want to."
mm,
And so, like, so on the left hand side, write down, take an assessment and look and say, what is actually going on? What in these five key areas of my life, what's happening in my life? What's good? What's bad? Then on the right hand side,
what are the key areas again? I think I missed the key areas.
career, family, relationships. So that'd be like friends, colleagues,
Mhm.
and then your health.
Okay, okay,
And then
okay.
spiritual, like if you're looking at your spiritual aspect of it. So look at those areas and say, like, where am I at? And like, say, for example, like spiritual, sometimes people are like, oftentimes when we're disconnected, most people don't even have a connection with that spirituality, right? And spirituality can mean so many things to people. But what does
Yeah.
that look like? So, like, even that spirituality, that could be meditation, like, right? Or like you just mentioned, I mentioned, okay, I want to do meditation. I hear the benefits to meditation, but I can't really figure it out. So, like, write those things down. Then on the right hand side, I want you to dream and I want you to say, okay, here's what's happening with my career right now. Here's what's good. Here's what's bad. What would I like it to look like? And so even the good stuff, because like, right, there's always, oftentimes people are looking, how can I elevate, right? How can I
Hmm.
improve that? And then, or what's bad, saying, okay, whatever that is bad, like maybe when your career, you're like, hey, I'm working, I'm putting in the time, I'm, delivering results, but nobody's hearing me. I feel invisible. Like maybe
Mm,
that's what somebody's feeling like. So what would it look like for you to be visible? What would that look like? Are you leading a meeting? Are you leading, a focus group? What does it look like? When you're doing your update, are people listening to what you have to say and writing those down? And then, because really it starts with that clarity of understanding where are you at? Where do you want to go? Then that's where from there, I always say, take and identify. I always say, start with one, because it's the simple step. Pick one of those things and identify it and say, okay, this is an area that I want to focus on. And then what's one step that you can do to start to see that improvement with that?
mm.
Because what happens with that? Because once again, it's kind of like that example I told you about working out, right? People are like,
Yeah.
oh, I should work out. I want to do this. So I'm going to go from 0 to 60. And then we get, depressed and we're like going, oh, well, that didn't work out. Like, you do it for 2 days
Yeah.
and you're like, wait, I didn't see any results. That didn't work out. So the key is in those small, consistent steps. And the
Mhm.
thing, so this comes back to the energy then, right? Because as we start to put positive energy towards something, and then we start to have those small little wins, then our frequency, our vibration, our energy starts to
Mhm.
shift. Then we start adding that next thing. We start adding that next thing. And all of a sudden, you're going to say, wow, that thing that used to really bother me, or that thing where I felt like it was out of control. Wow, now instead of feeling like completely out of control, now I say maybe I'm at 50%. And then you continue, and literally you will be able to look short term and long term how your life changed. And that's what happened with me. Little steps, consistent steps.
Yeah.
I lead a completely different life now, but that didn't happen overnight. And
Yeah, it
that's
took
the thing,
work.
is I feel like we want to go, especially if we're feeling like it's not working, or we're like, "Hey, this is just what I have to deal with." Those small consistent steps can make huge big impacts. And then then that's where that energy comes into play, because then that's where you start showing up differently, right? Like think about,
Mhm.
if you're having tensions with your colleagues, and all of a sudden you change how you show up, guess what happens? Like attracts like. So, not
Yeah.
that you can control what happens around you, but you can control how you show up. And then that changes the experience.
I like that. So for you guys listening right now, it's a really great exercise to do. Something I've done myself on numerous times. And something like right before the New Year's, especially going into the New Year's, I do it as very often, like around my birthday and things like that. And so I could vouch and attest for the effectiveness for it. And I've never worked with Mel, but I can speak to the exercise because I've done this exact same thing. And there's a powerful energy that really comes from doing it, just going through the process alone. And then when you make the decision to commit to something. So, everyone listening right now, if you're on your walk, you're dropping the kids off to school and you're on the way back, rewind this for the past 6, 7 minutes and take some time and do that. Grab a sheet of paper, get your left side, your right side, and write these down. And you're gonna see a big difference in the way you feel, just even after doing it, because well, guess what's happening? You're analyzing these five key areas, but you're not analyzing from a perspective of like, hey, I'm analyzing from a low vibe. I'm going to stay in a low vibe. You're actually making the shift right away. You're shifting right now, and this is a really it's really amazing work because you get to actually see what happens. And this is just scratching the surface because um, when you talk about tapping into the power of energetics for more influence, impact, and success, there's different layers of it, and that's just one step, right? So let's say someone does that, and they're really looking to now they take that step, but they really want to just really elevate their entire, so the coaches listening right now, they want to elevate their business, and they really want to just go from a place where they're just going day by day, and they want to really get to that level of success and fulfillment. What's the big picture in this, right? That's a simple baby step. That's say a baby step, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
um it's an important step, but what's like the big picture? Where does this really go in terms of becoming like a master of the energetics, or even getting a better understanding of energetics and applying and using this day to day in life?
Yeah, no, that's such a great question. And that's the thing too, is even in my work, I see we focus on the practical stuff, right? And so, one thing to elevate, change, and shift your business to really increase it is it's not about the processes, the systems, the practical aspect of it. It's literally working on yourself.
Mm,
So, like you said, step one here is that clarity. Step two, so like that's where we begin. And then we identify those areas that are out of balance. And then we apply a lot of different energetic practices to help raise that vibration. Because, for example, like I just had this conversation yesterday. Somebody was like stuck in their business and they're just like, I keep trying this, I keep changing this, nothing's working. And I'm like, okay, let's not even look at your business. Cause like, yeah, you've got the system in place. You've got like it's there,
mhm.
but how are you showing up every day? What are you doing every day? What if we work on you? Because it is really about raising that vibration. And that's the piece is because energy. energy, like you can't see energy, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, it's hard for people to understand, like, what are you talking about me, controlling me? And it starts with, once again, everything is energy. So
Mhm.
when we look at the science, the psychology aspect of it, combine that with the practical habits, that's where you shift and change your energy. So for example, this lady, so we started working on her energy and we're like, we're just going to put your business to the side and we're going to work on you. We're going to start looking at, limiting beliefs. What are you thinking? How are you interacting? How are you showing up? Because like, those are the things, like, think about, especially as entrepreneurs sometimes, like, right? We're like, oh, we keep pushing because we want something, right? And we're like going, okay, why is this not happening? I'm doing XYZ steps. I'm doing the marketing. I'm doing the social media. I have my system in place.
Mhm.
I have my website. I have my phone. I have all those things. But how are you showing up? And that's where she was like, she goes, I can't believe, like, I stepped away from my business and I started becoming very aware of how I'm showing up, what I'm putting out, how do I support my emotional, mental, physical well being. And when we started to change that, and it goes back, step one is that clarity. And then we start working with that vision. And then we start talking about how are we showing up each and every day? What is it that I want? When you start changing those behaviors, because it isn't a matter of, today I have, 10 tasks to do. It's not about the
Mm.
task. It's about how we're showing up to do the tasks. What's
Mm.
the intention that we're putting into these tasks? We shifted, and she's like, I can't believe it. She goes, all the things I was stressing about, now clients are coming to her. Now she's getting, like, her business has completely changed because she's changed.
Wow.
And that's the thing I think is so interesting is it's not about the practical logistical aspect that we're looking at. It goes back to what I mentioned before. It's about, we have everything inside of us, but
Mhm.
we need to create that awareness and understanding. So we're going to shift mindset. We're going to shift the psychology. We're going to look at our thoughts. We're going to look at how we're feeling. We're going to look at how we're showing up because all of those things impact those tasks and those abilities. And for us to even attract clients, for us to align. And so when we look at those, you know, internal aspects of it, shifts and changes everything. And that's the thing, is same thing, like, working with a client who has a team within a very high stress corporate environment, and her team has completely changed by looking at the energetics in their internal world. And
Mhm.
so oftentimes we get stuck on, you know, let's look at all the to-dos and the practical and all that. But once we start really looking at what's happening inside of us and how we're showing up, that's how everything changes.
I love that. And the thing I'm hearing too is because, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, as high achievers, we can somewhat try to be controlling it to one extent or another. And external things, it's almost impossible to actually be in control of these things. But we can really, when it comes to the internal stuff and how we're showing up, where the thoughts are going on, analyzing us. This is where we actually have the highest level of actual control to be able to make a shift and make a change. So I love this. And I can tell this. So this is a conversation that can go very deep. Again, we're just really scratching the surface here. And it's something where you can actually take this journey quite a bit of ways. And it is a bit of a journey, especially when you're looking at becoming a master of energetics, of being able to look at our internal world and becoming an external world. So for those who are listening right now, if you really want to dive further into this and even get to know Mel a little more, Mel, can you tell us, like, what are I think you mentioned you have a resource too as well before we started recording. So if you could share that with us, and also share, like, what's the best way to get into your world, to get to know you more, and potentially even have a conversation with you.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's the whole thing, is like, I love sharing information about this, and I love empowering people to take control so that, we can live a life that we actually love, right? I mean, so often we see people who are just, you know, they're struggling, right? They're struggling to just actually enjoy their life. So I would love for, if this is resonating, to chat and connect. And you can find me on the socials. I'm at Now and Zenergy. So it's Z Energy. So now ends energy. My website is at melcunningham.com as well. And then, yes, I
Mm,
do have a resource, which this resource is, it takes you through 5 quick steps so that you can help to really, there is a little bit of that clarity in there as far as, step one there, but it's empowering strategies to manage stress more effectively. And,
mm,
even if you're not feeling like, oh, stress is a big deal for me, or maybe it's not a constant, these exercises are really a way to once again start creating that conversation with yourself, start getting that internal dialogue and figuring out like what is happening so that you can make those small shifts and changes. But yeah, I would love for you to, if this resonates, for you to, jump into my community. I do lots of free trainings and information, and I'd love to have just a little conversation. If there's anything that you want to dive a little deeper on, I'd love to connect with you.
awesome, very cool. So we'll drop those links below in the description on the blog post and things like that. So if you guys want to get a hold of Mel, dive deeper into the world of energetics, it's really fascinating. It's something I got to experience firsthand. It was a while ago. I was at a little fair. It's not a fair, that's not the right word to describe it. It was like a little seminar, and we got a chance to actually raise our frequencies through a meditation using sense. And it was really powerful, just an immediate shift that happens going from analyzing the entire 7 areas of the body and really going from a low state to a high state. And to actually practice this daily, the stuff that Mel is saying right now is, like I said, it's just scratching the surface a little bit, but it's very, very powerful. So connect with her, get her. What is the name of the resource again? I missed it for the second time. Can't believe I'm
It's great.
missing this.
Empowering strategies to manage stress more effectively.
Okay, empowering strategies to manage stress more effectively. We can all use that because we all go through different levels of stress, and these strategies can definitely help you. I'm going to get that myself too as well. Everyone, again, thank you all for tuning in today. And my conversation with Mel Cunningham has been very insightful. I hope you've all taken away something amazing from this. Don't forget to download the resource, connect with her. And this, if you have an energetic practice already, dive a little bit deeper. As Mel mentioned, she was doing meditation, but it was when she got a certain type of meditation that really, really changed the game for her. And you never know who you can work with or connect with, that you may be doing something already. You may think I'm pretty good with my energy, but someone that could take you to just a next level. So it's really awesome to have these resources and these amazing coaches that we can connect with in the community. Next thing is, also don't forget to like the video, share it with somebody you think would be helpful for. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. And with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye, everyone.